Another day, another spring training game to go over. We're going to talk about a win, talk about Tarik Skubal's first spring appearance, Alex Lang, some other notable performances. We are also going to talk injuries. Do not let me forget. And then we will player preview Matt Vierling. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, February 29th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. All righty. Happy February 29th. Happy Leap Day to all. Happy Thursday. Almost through another week. We have a few things to go over today. We're going to talk about the Tigers' victory, their spring training win. Obviously, as I've said a billion times, not too hung up on the wins and losses, but some notable performances in this ball game. We're going to talk Alex Lang, who struggled in this one, Tarik Skubal, who did whatever the opposite of struggle in this one, and then a couple of offensive performances that I think are worth noting as well. Then we are going to talk about the injury report. I don't know what keeps happening. 2 weeks ago, I had to cut their injury report part of the episode out because it was like very, very low quality for whatever reason. The audio just completely was screwed up. And then yesterday, I just forgot to bring it up. I just didn't talk about it, even though we were supposed to. So do not let me forget. It's everyone's job. Don't let me forget to, as if that's even possible. Don't let me forget to talk about injuries because I don't know why. It's a cursed segment on the show, the injury report. So we're going to talk about that, and then we'll end the show by discussing a player preview on what to expect out of one Matt Vierling in 2024. I think one of the more interesting dudes on the team, especially after the Gio Urshela signing. So we will talk about all of that today. Let's get right into it here. The Detroit Tigers won a baseball game on Wednesday, 5-3 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. That does make them does that make them over 500 now? With the tie and everything, it's weird. But regardless, that is their third win in the spring so far. Again, not too many offensive notable performances. They did put up 5 runs, but I think the only people that like Ben Boom hit a homer, like that's not really a big, huge talking point. But I think the people I do want to bring up, Winfield Perez had a 2-run homer or a solo shot, but scored at least later in the game. Had a moonshot of a home run, though, Winfield Perez did. A guy that last year in AAA crushed the ball. And I don't know this for a fact. This is not a report. This is a guess more than anything else. But I have a hunch that if Winfield Perez didn't get hurt last season, right around the time of September call-ups, that he would have been the Detroit Tigers September call-up. And that's not taking away. Andre Lipsius had a fantastic year in the minors last year, and I was pretty pumped when they gave him the call. But Winfield Perez really kind of showed out. He didn't have a great season in Double-A. I mean, he was good enough to get promoted eventually. It wasn't like he was awful, but he wasn't, like crushing the ball. And then he got to Triple-A and was crushing the ball. So I'm very glad that he's getting playing time, and I'm really interested in what he is going to do with some PT here, some playing time in spring training. Justice Bigby with another hit. People are pumped up about that. Happy to see it. No chance he's going to make like the opening day roster or anything, just not even on the 40-man either. But good to see him continue to stroke it, man. I'm a huge fan. Obviously, like I said, friend of the show. If you haven't seen the interview a few months ago now, go check that out. The only other one I wanted to bring up, the only other player was Eddie Leonard. Just continues what he did last season and becomes he is quickly becoming like the exit velocity darling, right? Like Spencer Torkelson was kind of that early in his career before the results started following. Everybody was like, hey, but look, just watch out. Like he's crushing the ball though. And Eddie's Leonard is a guy who he had results in AAA. He had really good numbers with the Mud Hens last year, but absolutely has just been tearing the cover off the baseball. I mean, he's hitting like 400 with an OPS over 1,000. We're 5 games in, like, not that big of a deal. But his EVs, his exit velos, are all just over 100, over 100, over 100, over 100. So continues to be on that, I guess, tear of just everything he hits is a laser, which is good to see. Let's talk about the two biggest kind of stories, I guess we'll say, of this ball game. One being Tarik Skubal, one being Alex Lang. We'll start with Skubal. 2 innings of no-hit ball with 1 walk and 2 strikeouts. By all accounts, he was absolutely dominant. We don't have too much video of it because baseball hates me, but absolutely dominant stuff in all the metrics. I mean, he was touching 99 with ease, like consistently was hitting 99 miles an hour on the fastball. I cannot wait for the regular season for Tarik Skubal. When we done, I have a list of the players I've done a player preview on and haven't. I genuinely, they all just blend together at some point when you do this every day. I don't remember if I have or haven't with him, but if we haven't yet, and I still have to, we will. I know at some point in the offseason, I've talked about Skubal's ceiling being like Cy Young caliber. And if we have yet to do the player preview, we'll bring that up again. If I already did, then I'm sure I said it on that show, but I know I said it on the show because I remember saying it. I just don't remember what the context was. But yeah, he is absolutely incredible. The velocity uptick is something I didn't even really account for. I was just like, oh, he was dominant last year. He'll be dominant again this year. Maybe just messed around and got better. I don't know. Like he was the best pitcher in baseball by several metrics from when he returned from the IL last year through the end of the season, man. Like he is an unbelievable talent. He is the ace of this team without a shadow of a doubt. Assuming health, he will be the opening day starter for this team and will consistently be matched up against whoever we're playing's best pitcher every series this year. And that's really exciting because I would take him against most pitchers that he's going to line up against this season. I think the world of him. I think the fan base is starting to realize that we have a legitimate, like star level ceiling talent on this roster in Tarik Skubal. And this was, it's spring training. I'm not trying to say this game means a lot, but just seeing him consistently hit, 98 and a half, 99, 99 and a half miles an hour in spring will get you awfully excited about April. All right, so Tarik Skubal, incredible. The only other talking point, really, Mason Englert, want to give him flowers. We've done a lot of talking about, I think I said on here last week, there's no chance Mason Englert makes the Major League roster out of camp this year. I stand by that, but for whatever it's worth, he had almost 3 innings of shutout ball with 4 strikeouts, so good for him. Hopefully he keeps making an adjustment. We need fastballs out of him that are Major League worthy. Alex Lang, though, 1 inning, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts. We will talk about that right after I tell you all about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view of your seat before you buy it. You know exactly what to expect when you arrive that way. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. You can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, just 2 taps, and you're all set. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats, which is why it's my favorite ticketing app, because I just decide, an hour before first pitch or half an hour or 15 minutes before first pitch that I want to go see the Tigers all the time. And so Game Time is really catered to that as well. They have everything: basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater. If it needs a ticket, odds are pretty good Game Time has it. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time and download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, all one word, capital L, capital O, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow. Yes, I thought today was Thursday, and then I remembered it was Wednesday. For me, it's Thursday for you. Very complicated. I recorded these the day before. We will be back tomorrow talking about another spring training game, the last one of the week before we get a couple of days off. Actually, no, we don't have a day off until next week, I believe. So we'll be playing through the weekend, but we'll be back player previewing another player as well. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel over on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV for free in the free Fire TV channels app. Okay, so we are talking about the game yesterday. Just want to wrap up this conversation here about this ball game with talking about Alex Lang. 1 inning, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs given up. Goodness gravy, what a line. He didn't give up a boatload of home runs last year. They kind of came in bunches when they did come. Had a few all in a relatively short period of time, I want to say, if I'm remembering that right. But the walks were obviously the biggest thing last year. And this is I think this is his first outing of the spring. I don't think I've seen him pitch before, but regardless, it's one of his first couple of outings of the spring. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, like we give everybody the benefit of the doubt here, just in terms of spring training context. Okay, this is something that is easily the biggest issue that he has to work out is his command. And I don't think it's fair for me, from my position, to say, oh, well, when so-and-so, when Andrew Chafin implodes the other day, oh, well, let's give him time. It's early in spring. Nobody cares. And then when Alex Lang does it, it's, oh, my goodness, it's same old Alex Lang from July of last year. There's still almost a month of spring training games left. We're going to see how he progresses, but obviously not a great start. And for a guy who is, I don't think, playing for his job, I'd be pretty surprised if Alex Lang wasn't in this bullpen on opening day, just because the stuff is so nasty. And it's not like he had like a 6 ERA last year, right? Like, even with the command issues, he still kept runs off the board better than quite a few people, at least. So I don't think like his opening day job is necessarily in jeopardy, but his role in the bullpen certainly is. And that's going to be something that's going to have to get ironed out throughout the spring and probably into April as well, just like it was last year. So something to keep an eye out there for. Not making any brash, claims or anything, because it's still February baseball. Like, there's still a lot of time left here. But the command is something that he desperately needs to iron out if he wants to be, and from the Tigers' perspective, right? From a fan perspective, you want guy Alex Lang with pinpoint command would be the best reliever in baseball. Like, legitimately, that's how good his stuff is. That's how good his swing and miss stuff is. If he had Greg Maddox command, you're talking about a guy who would be like the best closer to ever live. So we just need some semblance of command going forward. That'll be a big thing for him to work on, obviously, but not a great start. Not a great start, unfortunately. Injury report. Kerry Carpenter, left hamstring strain, is completing a running progression and will face live pitching. So that's good to see him kind of get back into the swing of things. If he can be playing games, in 2 weeks, obviously that's best case scenario. So we'll keep an eye on that. Dylan Dingler is expected to catch a game this week, so he should be off the injury report pretty soon here. That's always good. Sawyer Gibson-Long, with a left groin strain, initiated a throwing progression over the weekend. He will continue to progress his throwing volume and conditioning this week. Riley Green is scheduled to play right field this week, obviously did. On Tuesday, that was right. He will continue to progress his playing volume throughout the remainder of spring training. So they're going to limit his workload, but I think the plan is for him to be ready to go, fully healthy. And I think he is fully healthy. I think they're just being kind of cautious about it so that he's ready to go every single day on opening day. Garrett Hill was cleared to advance his rehab and strength exercises. That's always good. And then Brennan White threw a bullpen session earlier this week and is scheduled to throw another one today as you're listening to this, Thursday the 29th. So that'll be good. There was a little bit of worry out there. Anytime you see elbow soreness, that's always kind of cause for concern. So there's a little bit of worry from people that maybe, Brendan White's might have been more serious than I initially let on. But if he's throwing, that's at least somewhat of a good sign. So we will keep tabs on that. Injury report done. Did it. Didn't forget it this time. Let's talk Matty Vierling. Matt Vierling, one of the more, I don't want to say polarizing, but conversation-inducing players on this roster, I think is the way to put it. I think let's talk numbers. Let's talk his numbers from last year, and then we'll talk, that'll transition us into role on the team this year. Obviously, Urshela, throws a little bit of a wrench into what we originally thought his role was going to be on the team this year. In 134 games in 2023, he had a 261 average, a 329 OBP, a 388 slug. That was good enough for a 717 OPS. He was worth 1.2 Fangraphs WAR, had an 8.3% walk rate, a 21.1% K rate. Both of those almost exactly league average. 10 home runs, 63 runs, 44 RBIs, and 6 stolen bases. We'll obviously talk a lot more about numbers and, percentiles and all that good stuff as we continue this. But initial thought is I have always been, no, I shouldn't say always. There is, I think certainly when this trade first happened, I guess we'll start at the beginning. I think I was much higher on Vierling than I am now. And I was caught up a lot in how pretty the Savant page looked, right? The baseball Savant page for Matt Vierling looked awfully nice. He was, hitting the ball really hard. He was really fast. He was a good defender. He had a good arm. He didn't swing and miss. He didn't strike out. He walked a decent amount. I was like, oh my goodness. Then after about, 3 weeks of watching him play baseball, I realized how he was able to have the Savant page look the way it does, and B, kind of where I stood on him. It didn't take too many games played of watching Vierling for me to kind of get somewhat of a grasp on my opinion of Matt Vierling, and it didn't really change. There was a little bit of a change, I'll say, in September that caught my eye, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Initially, this guy is tooled up. This guy is literally Bob the Builder. Like it is very impressive, and you can understand why the Tigers sought him out in the Gregory Soto trade. You can see why there are teams and people out there that are totally fine with giving this dude a lot of work. He has all of the tools. His belt, his work belt is completely full. He is one of the faster players in the entire game of baseball, 91st percentile in sprint speed. Also in the top quarter of the league in arm strength, the top 17% of the league in arm value. Because he's really fast, he is a positive. He has positive range, not significant positive range, but some positive range. Should probably be better. We'll talk about that in a second as well. Can also play a bunch of different positions. Was a positive defender at third base last season, believe it or not. Was a net zero or positive defender in corner outfield, depending on what numbers you use and which position you're looking at. Can play center if you really need him to. I don't like playing him in center. I don't think he's a very good center fielder, but has the ability to, kind of a safety valve option. You need to put bubble gum on the broken pipe. Matt Vierling, right? And again, like hard hit rate, 60th percentile, hit the ball harder than more players in the game of baseball than not. Whiff rate, 83rd percentile, top 17% of the league. Like I said, almost exactly league average. K rate, almost exactly league average walk rate. So getting his walks at an over 8% clip, striking out at just over a 20% clip. I mean, there are a lot of tools here. And even, you want to talk about he only hit 10 home runs. You should go look at some of those homers. He hit some absolute bombs, bombs, right? Like I always think of that Damian Lillard clip when in the bubble playoffs when he hit the three from like almost half court and turned around and like flapped his hands and went bombs away. Like Matt Vierling could have done that like after a couple of those. Upper deck twice in Minnesota in one game. I mean, he has a, when he got a hold of it and pulled the ball, he hit it really, really hard. That will transition us into my next point, which is that he needs to pull the baseball a lot more. Okay, we'll talk about that right after this. Get buckets this NBA season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. How about the Motor City Bad Boys? All right. How about the Stones? You know how remarkable the Wizards do not get nearly enough heat for their season. You know how remarkable it is that the Pistons set the record for most consecutive losses in a row in the history of basketball, and currently at the time of this recording don't have the worst record in the NBA? That's preposterous. The Wizards should be absolutely ashamed. They have two guys they're paying over $20 million a year. Maybe throw some love on the Stones over at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So talking about Matty V. I guess that's kind of Matt Vasgersian. We're talking about Matt Vierling here. The most beautiful jawline you will see out there, Matt Vierling. So we were talking about all of the tools he has, his numbers from last year. One of the big issues that I have with Matt Vierling, and that a lot of people much smarter than me as well have brought up about Matt Vierling, is the fact that he does not pull the baseball consistently at all. And when you go to Baseball Savant, you can look at his spray chart, right? Beautiful resources we have in today's day and age. It's a wonderful thing when it comes to analyzing and coming to your own conclusions on players. You can look at his spray chart. All of his home runs are to center field and left field, right? The pull side or dead center. Not all of his singles, but all of his singles hit in the outfield. Still not all. A majority, a lot of his singles are to the right side, right? And there's also an interesting tool on Baseball Savant called the Illustrator, and you can basically just create any graphic you want. You can just search up a player, put any amount of like caveats or like nooks and crannies are all in there, right? Like you have a lot of resources available to you, and you can create a spray chart, a strike zone chart, a zone chart, whatever you want, and because of all the data we have today. And so I was kind of messing around on the Illustrator with Matt Vierling, and if you go to that resource, Baseball Savant Illustrator tab, okay, just type in Matt Vierling. You can do this yourself. You can sort and just look at a spray chart of all of the balls that Matt Vierling put in play last season that were off of pitches that were more than 95 miles an hour. It's almost exclusively either up the middle or to right field. Then you can, I even took the miles per hour part out of it. I was like, you know what? Forget speed. Let's just go pitch type. I did every variation of fastball. So I did four-seam fastball. I did sinker. I did cutter, right? Everything that's in the fastball family, right? With no miles per hour restriction. They could be 90. They could be 105. Doesn't matter. Almost all of them to right field. Almost all of them. And that's something that we talked about in the middle of the season last year. If you're a longtime listener of the show, this is not a new conversation for you. If it is, welcome aboard. We're going to talk about this a lot this year. This is going to be one of the biggest talking points that I have personally with Matt Vierling going into 2024 is, can he pull fastballs? Because I'll tell you what, he had a below league average OPS last year on the season. He did some stuff right. Again, he has a ton of tools. He has the ability to be better. but he had a 717 OPS and hit 260. He can be better. He has the ability. He does not swing and miss. That is such a valuable thing to have. He doesn't swing and miss, and he draws walks, and he doesn't strike out very often. Like he frustrates me, I think, more than anything, because I think he has the ability to be pretty darn good. I think this dude, there should be no reason, like legitimately, there is zero excuse for Matt Vierling not to be like a 2.5 to 3 win player every year. I genuinely believe that. You look at like what he is able to do in the peripherals and whatnot, there is no excuse to not be able to. And his excuse is he cannot time up a fastball. He can't. At least he didn't in 2023, I should say. I shouldn't say he should never be able to. That is what I am looking for in 2024, is his ability to do so. And you start looking at, breaking balls. He's pulling a lot more of them, right? If you filter in changeups, he's pulling a lot more. It's not like every single hit is just to the right side, but all of the fastballs are, right? There's just a complete barren wasteland on this hit chart when you just look at fastballs, not the whole hit chart, just fastballs, and the results in play on just the variations of fastballs. There's a barren wasteland in left field. There's nothing. It's just zero. Not even like putouts, not even balls that are just hit to left field and caught. There's just like barely anything out there. In September, he started pulling the ball. And he had one of, if not the best month of his season. If you go by month, he did have an OPS over 1,000 in June. But in September, he had an 873 OPS and a 269 batting average, a 378 OBP. So took big steps in the right direction, comfortably had the most walks in any month of the season in September as well. So I think that was a big reason why. I really do. He did not hit a single home run in July or August, and then hit 3, which was tied for the most he hit in any month all year, in September. And I think that has to do with his ability to turn on the baseball and pull it on fastballs. So that's something that Evan Petzold's already talked about a lot. Him and Mark Gorosh both have been bringing that up as well for a long time. And Evan, great reporter, obviously, has been already talking about that in the spring and talked to Vierling about it. And there's been, some parts of stories where he's talked about, changing his load in his swing, changing his where his hands sit a little bit and whatnot, just to make the attack angle quicker, right? His stance last year, we're going to have to do a complete breakdown of, his mechanics and whatnot, but it just took a really long time. Even if he has really good bat speed, it just takes a long time from where his hands start to get them around on the baseball, especially if it's, a 97 mile an hour fastball on the inside half of the plate. Good luck, brother, right? Like your hands and your load where your front foot is starting, all of that just, it was just a swing that naturally was going to lead to a lot of slap hits to the right side. And that's what he did a lot last year. And he wasn't bad, even despite everything I'm saying. I am saying what I think he needs to do to untap into this next level of, like, you should be an everyday starter. You're putting up a 2.5 WAR season. You're a valuable member of this team that's kind of going to be penciled in going forward, right? I think he has the potential to do that. And that's why I get almost worked up when talking about, like, I get like kind of frustrated when talking about Vierling, just because he has the ability to be a really, I think, legitimate asset to this team going forward. And I just want him to be able to take the next step. Now, so he played 1 year for the Tigers. So we'll see. He's only 27 years old still. Only 2 years of like legitimate major league experience. He's still, in terms of, how often he's played the majors, still on the younger side for sure, has plenty of time to make these adjustments. So that's a big thing that I'm looking for in the spring. Okay. We're talking about everything else around Vierling. I think he should be the best super utility player in baseball. Genuinely. That's kind of like what I pencil him in as. That, especially after the Urshela signing, you have a guy who can play third base a lot more than you originally thought. I mean, seriously, I think Matt Vierling could be incredibly valuable. Can you imagine you have a guy who can play all three outfield positions, can play third base, has played second base in his major league career, right? Has played shortstop before. Like this guy that can play 5 or 6 different positions and doesn't strike out, does draw walks, can give anybody on the roster a day off, puts the ball in play no matter what, even if he never pulls the baseball the rest of his career, is going to be putting the ball in play, can be around a league average hitter that you can bring in any situation. I like the value that Vierling brings. I really do. I just think there's another level that is obtainable for him, and it's not for everybody, and that's why I'm bringing it up, right? Like you could say about everybody, well, if you do this and this and this player, you'd be the best player in baseball, right? You could say that about every single player in the league, right? Everybody has something that they could be better in. Vierling's, I just think, is so obtainable. Like I think it's right there. It's right there. And I think it's a few adjustments away. So he's aware of it too. Like I have, by all accounts, seems like a great dude. I obviously have nothing against him personally. And by all accounts, he's also a great clubhouse guy, kind of a guy that was somewhat of a leader at points last year. Like I I think he can carve out a pretty darn valuable role on this team. It's I just think there's another level that he can unlock. I think that that's very obtainable for him. As far as what I expect out of him this year, I'm not holding my breath on him, pulling the baseball on fastballs and hitting 20 homers. Not exactly holding my breath on it. But if he can even be a league average OPS guy, have an OPS, 730, 740 with the amount of speed he has, it really the thing that Matt Vierling's entire profile just comes down to his ability to, at his best, utilize the tools he has. He is in the 91st percentile in sprint speed and had 6 steals last year, right? Got to utilize your speed better. Again, 91st percentile, and one of the better arm values in baseball was a 0 OAA in corner outfield. With that profile, you should be a, dare I even say, big time plus defender in the outfield with that profile, right? Like it all comes down to his ability to utilize the tools, the tons of tools that he has. There's no reason he shouldn't be a really, really good defender. I think that's something he can do. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to wreak havoc on the base paths. I don't know how he isn't able to more consistently. And we obviously, I don't want to just keep beating the dead horse of, what he can do on offense, but this is a guy who again, even if he just plateaus and this is just all he's ever going to be, still can provide value. And that's kind of what he's a high floor type of player. That's why I'm honestly really excited about what he can provide this team in 2024, because I think that he can be a guy that's going to play 4 or 5 different positions, give you a good bat, solid enough league average bat off the bench, can play all over the field, give anybody a day off. Like I said, his splits last season, righty lefty, is something I wanted to bring up too. 724 OPS against righties with 9 of his 10 homers. Against lefties, 699 OPS, 1 home run, and only 8 extra base hits total. Again, he's a righty that puts the ball in play and struggles against lefties. That's like a weird thing that isn't too consistent across baseball. So again, that's another thing he can improve on, right? He can hit lefties a little bit better, get some more power against lefties specifically. So I have a billion thoughts on Matt Vierling. This could be a 3-hour episode, genuinely. The ground ball rate we talked about, it's well above league average. 49% ground ball rate, league average was 44.6. You want more evidence of pulling the baseball? His opposite field hit percentage, 33.6%. Over a third, barely, but over a third of his hits were to the opposite field. League average is 25.3. That's 8% higher than league average. That's a lot. Pull side, 5% lower than league average. And look, man, if you had an 800 OPS hitting the ball the other way, this would be a much different conversation. But the fact of the matter is, he was hitting the ball hard on the ground the opposite way and did not have very much consistent power and was a below league average hitter. So in my mind, if you, and again, most of them on fastballs, his inability to pull the ball was majority just on different variations of fastball. So all of that is to say that I really like the Vierling profile still. I think he's going to provide value to this baseball team. I'm sure he's going to frustrate me at times. I'm glad he's here. I don't want this to get misconstrued as like I think Matt Vierling's an awful baseball player. That's the last that's not true, right? I think he's a couple adjustments away from really taking honestly a decent step forward. It's just a huge question mark on if that's possible. And I haven't seen anything this year to say that it is, but that's because we haven't seen anything yet this year, right? We're in February still. So we will keep an eye on that. As far as what I actually am expecting, I would love a 2-win season out of him if he plays enough games, obviously. I think that he will be utilized. Depends on how good Urshela is, but maybe he doesn't even hit 135 games like he played last year. Maybe he doesn't hit that. Maybe it's more of a, like 110, 100 to 115 type of range if he takes more of that super utility role. But I think there is the potential for a lot of value here. I don't know how confident I am in that being obtained. If he can replicate, in 100 games, if he can put up a 1.5 win season, that would be a successful, fine, like you did your job, you did what I expected you to do type of year. Be able to play everywhere you're going to be put defensively decently well, and I'm gonna think that that's a fine season, and he's going to continue to be my super utility guy going forward. I'm not going to put him in the starting lineup, and he'll be on the team for another 4 to 5 years. And that's probably the profile you're looking at. So there is value. I think there's another step that he can unlock. I just clearly don't have the utmost confidence that is obtainable, but it's in there. It's in there, and I really really hope that he's able to do it. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow. All right. Recapping another spring training game. I believe we play the Red Sox today as you're listening to this. So we will talk about any happenings in that. And then we will obviously do another player preview. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.